mother speaks.
I am Great Mother, Holy Spirit, Yin, Divine Mother, Cosmic Womb, Deep Space, the Moon, Dark Matter, the Void, the Black Hole, Hathor, Isis, Diana, Mami Ishtar, Kali, Mammy, and Mother Mary. Hello, welcome to Great Mother Speaks. I'm Tammy Taylor, your manifestation muse, and today...
Hi, this is Tammy with Great Mother Speaks, and I'm so excited to be with Julie Wilder today. She is the creator of the Spiral Spectrum graphic illustrations of the moon cycle. She does the illustrations for the cosmic calendar that includes where the sun is traveling, where all the planets are traveling throughout the year, and they're designed for visual learners. So they're so much fun and they're easy to follow, but most important to me is they are so educational as well. So if you are just interested or you're just entering astrology, spiralspectrum.com, Julie Wilder. I'm so excited. I've literally just met her just now.
And we're like, we have so much in common already.
Already. She is just a soul sister with the lunar energy. And so we're going to talk about what she does and why she does it. And I want to share it with you because it is so easy to pick up. And it's so important, especially now, for us to tap into our cosmic calculus, as I like to say, because it's going to help you really understand your soul intention and the energies that are supporting you. So with no further ado, I want to ask Julie Wilder, what is it that inspired you to create these calendars?
Well, her name's Maya Juniper Rose, and she was 3 years old at the time, maybe 2. But I was actually teaching her, and I have a little handy prop right here, the Wheel of the Week. So this is what is at the middle of all of my cosmic calendars, but she was starting to learn the days of the week at school. And I was like, wait a second, time isn't a line, time's a circle. So I taught her the colors and the days of the week, as a wheel. And then I was like, well, 7 days, 7 chakras. So we did that too. So really that little center nugget of my calendar is the inspiration for it. And so I realized it was my parental duty to teach her about the cyclical nature of time at that point. So being a graphic designer and also an overachieving mom, I woke up the next day with this idea to just, I'll recreate the calendar.
Mother energy. And so what is this called again?
That's the Wheel of the Week.
It's a magnet.
Well, that's a magnet. I had those made, but...
Wheel of the Week.
Yeah, it's at the middle of all of my cosmic calendars, which is my flagship product.
We're at her work table. This is where she works. This is her space in her home where she creates these beautiful calendars. And this is what she's saying. It's in the middle. See? The Wheel of the Week. And it goes off into the actual constellations. And so you can see what sign you are in the year. And then it has the months. And then what's this layer right here?
So this outside layer is what I call the Skyway transit schedule. So if you think about a subway system, we understand subway cars, the lines of a subway, and transits where they get to a new station or not. So these are like tracks in the sky. So they represent the planetary orbital tracks. And there you go. So here's the little key to the solar system down here, and they have the matching track. So this fun orange one is actually Jupiter. And so each of these little buttons on here, you'd probably have to get a little bit closer to it, but it actually tells you when it moves into a new zodiac sign, a new constellation, so that you can tell where all of the planets are at in the zodiac throughout the year.
This looks a little different from the one last year.
Yes, I constantly am updating the design, and it's interesting because I feel like the design kind of reflects the year that is coming through. So last year I was actually I guess that would be the current year, that I was pretty unhappy with the colors. They seemed really muddy to me, and I didn't really like them, so I switched printers. This is
beautiful.
It's a certified green printer this year, and so I added this to the design, because before they were just in circles, so I made it look like a solar system.
Look, everybody, look
So.
at her solar system key down here. So you see all the colors around that rim that she was just talking about? This is the key. And so not only do you get the key to what the planet is, but she tells you what the vibrational energy represents in these planets as well, as the key down here that she has for the seasons and the months and the orbits.
And what I find is this whole thing is a tool for people to reconnect with their own intuition. So while I do put the archetypical energies on here that over centuries sages have come up with, but really it's just a cue for people to develop their own relationships with the planets and the constellations. So if you think of Gaia as a sentient being, a lot of people do. I take that and I say, well, if Gaia is a sentient being, well, so is Jupiter, and so is Mars, and so is the sun, and so is the moon.
Right.
So if you think about them even as an imaginary personality, that is affixed to each of these different kinds of beings, because clearly they're huge ecosystems. But yeah, so I talk about, like, with Mars, for instance, he's known for being aggressive, but which can be good at certain times and a little too much at other times, right? But if you get to know them and you get to know how each of the planets interact with each other as neighbors, right? These are our neighbors in the solar system. So if you apply some of our ideas about community and neighborhood to the solar system, it can help you really understand and process and build a relationship with what's going on in the neighborhood. Essentially.
Wow, the cosmic neighborhood.
Yeah.
So people are planets too. That's what my astrology teacher was
stardust.
teaching me. We're all stardust, and we all have these personalities. And so, as she was saying about Mars being aggressive, as an example, Mars rules Aries, and in Vedic astrology it rules Scorpio. But it's just, when you're looking at your moon sign reading, you can have an idea of, why is it that I am a certain way? And if you look at the planet that rules you and you use the cosmic calendar, it's going to give you a lot of information about that planet's personality and where it's traveling throughout 2018. This is the 2018 calendar. And so you just go to spiralspectrum.com, and she has this calendar in addition to the one that you always see when I post the moon reading videos. We just did the new moon, but of course there's new moon and full moon. And this is Julie's calendar. Tell us about the moon phases.
So the moon phases are the thing that is our closest neighbor. So the moon impacts us the most, right? The moon, in my observation, is a way to, it's like it mirrors the cycle of life. And so if you align your actions and your intentions with the moon cycles, it's really important. And there's actually, in my mind, a biological aspect that people don't really realize. Some people think, oh, this is just hooey magic or whatever, and I'm like, no, actually, if the moon is impacting our moods and tides the way that they are, they're impacting us on the cellular level too. And what you'll find is that the moon, the closer it is in proximity in its orbit, it's an elliptical orbit, so sometimes it's closer to Earth and sometimes it's further away, as well as its like luminosity, like how much of the moon is showing. It actually impacts our master cells, which is called mast cells, and there's which follow our circadian rhythm, is in every master cell. And when the moon is super close to us and also super full, that means that we might be experiencing more inflammation, which is why on the full moon people are crazy.
Yeah.
Because the moon is impacting us not just as a hooky thing that people think.
Well, that's why they call it a super moon.
Yeah, and which we have one on, by the way, the January 1st is a super full moon. People get ready. But that is something, so if we know that.
Oh, and you have the moon phases, by the way, all during the year. If you see on the side here, the first initial of every month, January, February, March, and it shows you those moon phases. So that full moon in January, you'll see there, it's about, I'd say on the 3rd of January, 2018. it's going to be that super moon.
No, January 1st, actually. January 1st.
That's the full moon.
That's the full moon. And so it's closest in proximity, and it is full. And so what I do as a practical application is that I make sure that I'm taking my anti-inflammatory stuff. Like I drink nettles tea a lot, which helps with inflammation. So I make sure that I'm being extra careful to get the good things in to help me reduce my inflammation. But I'm also just extra aware that people are a little bit triggered on the full moon. So I give people a little bit more grace on that day.
Right.
So, or I just maybe, this is not the day I might go out and like decide to party like crazy and take like New Year's is great for a lot of people celebrate with wine and alcohol, but that's really inflammatory.
That's very inflammatory. So, and on January 1st is when it's coming. You can see here the full moon is the ripeness and illumination. So whatever you've been cultivating up to that point, coming to ripeness and full illumination. So being aware of that, of what you're cultivating in your thoughts and in your emotions, because you also had a lunar chart that showed what planet, what constellation the moon was traveling through last year. Do you have that again this year?
So the moon, that's
because the moon travels every 2.5 days into another zodiac sign or constellation, however you want to think about it. I like to think about the animals and the stars, and so I say constellations, but it's the same as zodiac signs. And so every 2.5 days the moon shifts. It's the fastest moving one, and then Mercury comes after that in terms of swiftness, and so it's very fast, and that's why feminine energy is associated with being emotional and changing. But I would be curious to see what sign that supermoon is going to be in.
It's actually going to be in the supermoon happens January
1st.
It actually is January 1st at 9:24 p.m. Okay, so the moon Eastern Standard, exactly. And so the moon moves into Cancer at 3:01 a.m. So it will be a new moon in Cancer. Yeah.
Okay, so lots of mother energy, a lot of maternal energy, a lot of caring energy. And so pay attention to where your emotions are with that, people. Male or female, it doesn't matter how you're caring, how you're loving other people. Make sure that's in balance, because that inflammation in areas where that imbalance shows up for you may result in some discomfort. Okay.
But it's okay, because it's just where you're learning to like, okay, how do I need to take care of myself better?
Exactly.
Get some nettles tea.
Exactly. And so that's why we're sharing it here too, because this is a great way for you to kind of be able to predict those things.
Yeah, and one of the things that I did with this is these are also color-coded by the element, because sometimes it's easier for people to begin to understand just the simple element that it's in. Is the moon in a fire sign? Is the moon in an earth sign? So on and so forth. So I have the chart of the elements down there. So you can see the qualities of cardinal, fixed, or mutable, as well as is it a masculine or a feminine, and then what elements in it. So sometimes people have a little bit easier time because they can understand fire as an archetype. They can understand what fire is, and they can understand, that what puts out a fire and what makes a fire flare, right? So if you understand that, then it's helpful to navigate those emotions, because this is mostly dealing with our emotions, right? So that is one of the reasons I did this
and way. As you see where she put the elements, that also tells you whatever moon sign that you're in, what element that sign is in. So of course, if you see Taurus, it's going to show that that's an earth sign, and so you'll become more intimate with your astrology. You become more intimate with really what characteristics kind of motivate you that you may not be aware of right now, in a very simple, forthright way. This is awesome. And so this is new this year, that she's combining the solar with the moon in the Luna Soul Calendar 2018, spiralspectrum.com. And something else that she's added this year that's really fun with the moon. Tell us about the Mystic Moon Coloring Calendar. Now, you see a lot of black and white with me, and the Great Mother Speaks cards are black and white. And so what have you done with this, Julie?
Okay, so
to liven it up.
So this one is actually, so I call all like my other calendars, my more advanced calendars. And so this one was something that I made so that it could be accessible to some people that are maybe just beginning their journey and they just want to focus on getting in tune with those moon phases.
Right.
But I found that for me, learning astrology and learning about the cycles and learning about the energies that are at play, just building this calendar every year has taught me so much. And so I was like, well, what if I taught other people how to do this? So what I do, and I have to go off camera for 1 second because I forgot one thing over here.
Yeah, this is it.
It is,
I'll show you why she's off.
I put,
and she goes into
let's see.
explaining right away.
So basically what I do is I give you a chart that gives you the dates and times. I'll just like give it closer here. So this is what I would use to make those big calendars. I'm like, okay, on July 2nd at 1:31 p.m., you know.
So this is the ephemeris that you would use.
This is the ephemeris that I would use. So I give you this in here as well as these zodiac stickers. So they're just like little stickers right here.
And she explains all those fancy words very easily on the calendar, like in 2 sentences.
I try to make it poetic too. So that way you can come on here and you can use those same patterned orbits that you saw in the cosmic calendar. I have a little key. I make everything easy because I want to teach you guys. So I have a key to what the planets are, that same kind of idea on there. And then you just put the sticker. It's a circle graph, just like, remember 4th grade math?
So let's slow down for just a second. Yeah. And so what happens when you get this coloring calendar for the moon is that it's a learning tool to learn the moon. So when I'm talking about things that you may not be familiar with, you can be right on point with me because she has this key down here, just like she had for the cosmic calendar for the moon. And what this key does is, since you're just dealing with the moon, you're not having all these other planets. So all you're seeing right here is the moon. You're going to see all these different phases, and she explains what they are, and then when they move into the different constellations, and she explains what that is.
Yeah. So it's actually something that it can be used very simply as just, I tell people just use it as a mandala on the wall. Because Mother Nature has a way of magnetizing you in, right? So this is something that we should be being taught from the time we're babies. But because we're adults and we haven't learned this from the time we're babies, it's not our second nature. So it takes a little bit of time to integrate this knowledge. Right. And so just starting with a circle on the wall that says time is a circle and not a line is super helpful. And then you can get into the details as you're ready.
Right. So when we're talking about, well, this new moon is in Scorpio, or this, full moon is in Sagittarius, or whatever it may be, in Gemini or whatever, you'll be able to kind of follow along and say, okay, these are the underlying reverberations of that I might not be able to go through in the reading. You're going to be able to see right here with your cosmic coloring book. Mm-hmm.
And you can even note on there, a lot of people use it as like an emotion journal, so that you can begin to like you could write right on there like a happy face or a sad face or angry, or you can use it however you want really, to figure out how you're correlating with the moon, because everyone has a different moon sign and the moon keeps going around and it's going to be different for you versus someone else.
So where's the journaling part?
So that would be like right on here.
Oh, right in the center.
Yeah, so if you wanted to like write, so you could put the stickers
that's
around the outside, and then you could just do like happy faces, or you could come up with your own symbology. It's actually called a phenology wheel. Phenology is the study of basically time. So like botanists would use a phenology wheel to write or to draw pictures of a plant as it grows. So you can chart your emotions, and you'll be doing some fancy phenology work.
right, because these mean different things. Third quarter moon, forgiveness, release, letting go, for example. And so when you get to that third quarter moon phase area, or leading up to it, you can start to kind of note, how you're feeling about letting go of something. And so by the time, the new moon comes, you can see how fresh you are in that particular area that you're focusing on for that particular lunar cycle, which lasts for approximately 29 days.
Yes.
And she goes over all that with you very simply.
Yep. There we go.
Well, hey, we're going to have to talk to Julie Wilder again because she just has such an abundance of gifts, just wonderful illustrations for us to learn as visual learners or as people who are just new to astrology to get a grip on exactly what's going on within us and for us that great Mother, Father, God have. Thank you so much, Julie Wilder.
Thank you. This has been great. Thank you so much.
Yes, and you see her at the bottom of every video that I post because I do use this on every video as a visual, and so you'll find that in the information box as well, spiralspectrum.com. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, Great Mother loves you, and I do too.
Thank you. So I'm excited because this year I got Australian edition and a European edition. And it was really fun to like figure out Southern Hemisphere stuff versus Northern Hemisphere stuff. And I've got my moon calendar back here.
The Lunasol.
The Lunasol. This has it right to the minute. So you can tell what sign the moons are actually in all year long. And I even have, I have one over here. This one too. This is the Mystic Moon. So this is a coloring calendar, and it allows you can kind of plot data on here, and I have instructions on how to do that all throughout the year. And this one actually gives like my philosophy. This gives my time philosophy in here.
In a nutshell, what is it?
My time philosophy in a nutshell is that we should shift back to Mother Nature instead of Father Time. Father Time is like this like old man like going on a straight line, right? And Mother Nature is a more immersive, multidimensional experience of time. And so if we recognize that our civic calendar is a political calendar that has shifted us away from Mother Nature, away from the sun and the moon, then we can realize that if we reclaim natural time, we will be more aligned with all that is, and therefore more easily accessing our own intuition and power.
Great Mother speaks.
I am Great Mother, Holy Spirit, Yin, Divine Mother, Cosmic Womb, Deep Space, the Moon, Dark Matter, the Void, the Black Hole, Hathor, Isis, Diana, Mami Ishtar, Kali, Mammy, and Mother Mary.